Our next storyteller is another vet on the storytelling stage, and someone with whom I sang an inordinate number of karaoke songs with last year. I think it's like, you think you measure that by the shit ton. So a shit ton of karaoke. Somebody from whom I have learned something about writing poetry, and somebody whose spirit I find completely and utterly infectious. Shawn Pfunder.
Okay, so I'm supposed to talk about filthy creatures, so I'm just gonna get out of the way at the very top. There's not gonna be a weird build getting to the point. Children are filthy creatures. They're just foul. They're like walking pus balls. Like they approach you. Now I get that there's like biologically we're kind of attracted to them. They got the wide eyes. They look up and everything. But really they're like zombies carrying an infectious disease, coming up towards you, weird crusted things on their faces. Bad news, 100%. Now this is me all the way through. Like I don't know at what point I ceased to be a child and then just be afraid of children. Probably around 12, maybe 13. But it was like, no, I don't want to experience that. I'll cross over to the other side of the road. Please don't put me in those. Girlfriends would call up, hey, come over, I'm babysitting. No, that's bad news. So as I worked through this, I get to college. There's a professor of mine who I adored. His name was Fred Hafley. It was in Missoula, Montana. I was taking his creative writing nonfiction class, this creative nonfiction class, and I went over to his house, and huge admiration for this guy. He just won an award. He's just been on NPR, which for me is like ultimate status. Like somebody's talking to him about literature on NPR. He's godlike. And we're hanging out in his backyard, being really cool. We're drinking beer, like talking about how cool we are. We're writing all this great stuff. And I guess you guys kind of picture that scene. Late summer, Missoula, Montana, top of the world. A kid comes running out from the back, right? The kid comes pouring out. He's wearing the sleeper with like the footy things on it and everything. Comes running up to Fred, and I kind of take a step back. I've got a beer. I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. Whisks him up. He's giving him love and everything, and he realizes he forgot something. So he turns to me. He says, "Here, take my son." I'm like, no, I'm not going to take your son. Like, hold your son. First thing I learned at that point. Around two years old, you think they're not going to weigh anything. And he hands me his son, and it's like, whoa, there's a lot of germs in this body that's just been handed to me. It's really heavy. I was surprised. Second thing I learned, or I'm trying to learn or think through, is I really hope that the diaper that he's wearing is kind of like a filtration device. Like it's purifying whatever is going on to my arm at this point. Kind of seeping through and down. Not good. Not good at all. And so I decided that the only way I can kind of avoid having, well, there's lots of ways to avoid having children. We could name all of those ways. One of the main ways was no serious relationships. I can't get married. I don't need to have that conversation about it. And I flee the country. I go to Eastern Europe, kind of that early 20-something, I want to be Ethan Hawke kind of thing, and decide I'm going to go live my life and not worry about kids. I'm going to end up in New York. I got accepted to NYU. I was going to do theater. I was going to live on the streets. Whatever. Creative lifestyle. I don't need to worry about that. Of course, 20-something crisis. I fall in love. We come home. We get married. Move back to Missoula, Montana. So in Missoula, Montana. Now I'm not sure. There's different stories if you talk to my wife about finding out about her being pregnant. It kind of goes like this. She'll say, we were at Burger King, and you said, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I'll say, there's no way I thought that was a great idea, that we should have kids. But she then moved on to plan for that to happen. I didn't know she had moved on to plan for that to happen. So we continued, newlywed activities and all sorts of fun things while living in Missoula, Montana. And then one day I came home. She had a poster made, and it was Norman Rockwell, and it's a picture of a kid on a diving board, like looking over the edge of the dive. Very cute, like really wonderful. And on a sticky note it says, we're pregnant, exclamation point, heart, 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 XXOO, whatever, right on there. And then also a confirmed status certificate from Planned Parenthood that says, you're pregnant, like, good job, your urine came through. Now, what do I do? Like, at that point, I think she knows a little bit. Like, I've had concerns about this. I'm afraid of children and everything else. I clearly understand at that moment that there's been a communication gap. And I can't say, what? No. And I have codependency issues. I want people to like me. So at the same time, I'm like, oh, that's amazing. This is really great. And I go into this other mode. I made all of the clothing, all of her maternity clothes. My dad taught me how to sew. She would go and pick out the cloth, and I would sew the clothes. We did the whole thing of actually putting the headphones on the belly. I was like, this child's gonna get like early exposure to Tom Waits, like as much as possible, just over and over and over again. Like it was really, we would do that. We would go for walks. We would talk about like what's going to happen. We'd eat healthy. Like we were stupid and we were young and we were in love and the whole time there's this nagging like, we're bringing a zombie into the world. Like, this is not good. And then if you look at early pictures, they look like aliens, right? Like curled up with weird tails. And I can't shake this. This is what's going to happen. Eventually, right, the inevitable happens. Her water breaks. We're not, candidly, we weren't quite sure what were happening. It was like, maybe I think that's my water that just broke. And we're hanging out at the house. We go in, labor's not progressing. They're like, you should go for a walk. So we go outside and we go for a walk. We're not supposed to leave. We just unplug everything that's tied into her and like wrap it around her body and then just go out for a walk out into Missoula, Montana. It's November and mill around. And we come back and we're doing it together, which is really, really wonderful and it's really beautiful. And I love supporting her and putting this together. And when we get back, as she goes into hard labor, we start to notice that the heartbeat of the baby starts to drop every time that she has a contraction. And it's the umbilical cord that's wrapped around her neck. And as the umbilical cord is wrapped around her neck, the heart rate would drop. And as she goes through labor all the way through, eventually she gets really, really close. They turn off the monitors. So we can't hear what's going on anymore. And the baby's born. And the baby's born. She's blue, and she's stillborn. And the nurse, she with the doctor grabs the baby, goes over to a heat lamp. There's shots of adrenaline. They take the baby. I make eye contact with my wife, like what? I don't know. Like this really unsettling moment that's happening at this particular time, and goes over. And I realize at that moment. Like, despite everything else, despite everything that I've thought about this before, the only thing I wanted in the world at that moment was that baby. Like, that's the only thing that I wanted in the world was her. So good news, she lives, which is really, really great. She becomes a puss bag. Like, crusted nose, gross, like, eats ink at one point in her life. Really nasty stuff. She's 18 years old. She's getting ready to go to college. She's much more brilliant than I was when I was 18. Soon she's going to find herself, in that backyard, being much more gracious about it. But the thing that really that I grapple with still is just this idea that I don't always have to say yes to things that I want. A lot of the times I say things to yes that are handed to me, whether I want them or not. And it's made me, it's made my daughter, it's made my wife more beautiful people. Thanks, you guys.